Welcome to Take It Off, the podcast where we ditch the heavy layers and get real about who we truly are beneath it all. I'm Julie, and together with my co-host and friend Jess, we'll share our own stories and explore the triumphs and tribulations of being a woman in today's world. Let's get real, have some laughs, and inspire each other to embrace our true selves. Welcome to Take It Off. We are back with the second part in our two-part series of Getting Unstuck.
It's like a thing for us now.
I know. We are becoming like the experts of the two-part series.
I love it.
Here we are. All right, so to recap, we talked about mental stuckness and emotional stuckness last time. Now we're going to talk about getting unstuck, getting our energy unstuck, and getting unstuck from external forces that might not be within our control. So here we go.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Energetic stuckness.
Energetic.
Yes.
Okay.
So, energetic stuckness is like really when you're feeling a lack of inspiration, a lack of motivation, or alignment with your purpose. So we have definitely talked about this multiple times, especially on your like burnout journey.
Yes. Yeah.
That feeling, and I think like going back to the beginning of the episode when I talked about like my lack of drive to get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I think that's like energetic stuckness. It's like, I think a lot of times this manifests as like, when you feel blah, like you just feel like you have, like you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And maybe the things that you want and the things that you're doing are like just not in alignment.
Yeah.
Have you, like, how does energetic stuckness show up for you?
Yeah, people will often say, you know, I feel full of energy today. Or on the flip side, I'm just like drained. Like I'm drained of my energy. And I've been doing a lot of reading just on, and we still need to do an episode on the chakras. But been doing a lot of reading on the non-physical parts of yoga, and chakras are a part of that. And the truth of the matter is, we all have energy inside of us, and it's not a matter of it being gone or coming back. It's always there, and it's just a matter of making it move within your body, right? For me, it's been really helpful to take this different perspective on energy in the body. I mean, keep me honest. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think it's interesting that you say, like, that you talk about that, like, your energy is there no matter what.
Yeah.
And whether you're feeling drained or you're not, it's sort of like you're doing the work. It's just how your energy is like responding to it. So if you're doing the work that is like aligned with your purpose and your drive and the things that really light you up inside, I think your energy, like the energy inside your body actually like moves more naturally, but work also feels like lighter, easier. You feel motivated to do it. It doesn't give you that like heavy feeling of like drain, because it is something that's like lighting you up. And I think when you know you're feeling like energetically stuck, you feel like for me, in the past, I've said that I have felt like a shell of myself. And actually, it was interesting. One of the moments I realized that I really needed like a professional shift. I was doing interviews for both of my, I had a bricks and mortar business and a real estate business, and I was trying to interview people to help me with like marketing in both areas and just like grow. But I felt really like unaligned and like, and I know now it goes back to like Working Genius and my astrology, and it was all written there, but I just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But I found myself like I was showing a house the one time, and I was sitting down with the client. It was an investment property, and I was like mapping out business plans in the family room, and I'm like, this has nothing to, like, sure, maybe they'll buy the house, but like I'm really excited about like mapping out their business plan for them, right? But I felt that spark of energy. And then the same afternoon I went into an interview, And it was this woman who had this dream of starting her own business. And it came up, and I found myself talking her out of the job with me and into like pursuing her dream.
Yeah.
And I was working against my like actual business goals, but I just felt so energetically connected to that like it was just a moment of like really needing to observe like what was happening inside of me. To figure out like, okay, this is like really where a shift is necessary. I think that a lot of times this stuckness comes into our lives professionally when we do feel stagnant, when we feel like we don't know what our next step should be, where we feel unfulfilled. I think in our personal lives, like going back to one of our very first episodes when, we ask ourselves, like, is this it? Like, to some extent, you're feeling stuck. There is a lack of fulfillment somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not your whole life, but there is something that is just like weighing you down because it's like a void.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that comes from an energetic stuckness.
Yeah.
You're missing some sort of, electric current in your body that comes from connecting with a purpose.
Yeah. Do you find that creativity helps with breaking up the energetic stuckness?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I for me, I think creativity is the solution. I think we've actually gotten really, we see creativity as a luxury, as like a frivolous act that is just like not worth our time. It's a waste of time at least. And I would argue the absolute opposite. I think that innovation in work, motivation in life come from like quieting your mind through creativity. I think energetic shifts come in life when we make room for creativity. I just I was sharing with you earlier, I just took down my Christmas tree and finished my vision board for 2025 and it's mid-February. But one thing that I intentionally wanted to go on my vision board was the word create. Because I want more of that in my life, whether it's, I already have some creative outlets. I love to knit. I think about my cabbie business, my cabbie clothing business, and when I'm feeling stuck in that business, I just play with the clothes. I just walk up to the line and put different things together, different patterns, different capsules, whatever it is, and that re-energizes me, gets the energy flowing so that I'm inspired to reach out to someone and say, hey, I was just, putting this outfit together and I think it would be perfect for this event that you were talking about. But I want more creativity in my life. Yeah, so, okay, if I look back on my life in the past, I've always had creative outlets. I'm somebody that I love creating. I had a jewelry business at one point where I love working with gemstones and like wire wrapped jewels, and I've created macrame and acrylic stuff and crocheted, and
Did you do pottery at one point?
Well,
too?
yeah,
because I have this beautiful pottery thing that you made me.
Yeah, it was like maybe a little plant holder or a candle.
Yeah,
it was candle making.
Now I have a succulent in it.
See, you're repurposing it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So I've always just had a need to like get my hands into stuff.
Yeah.
I did just organize my craft closet, and it's very clear that I also have ADHD with the number of different activities that I'm involved in. But I found myself over time, squashing that side of me. So pottery, for example, I love the feeling of like getting my hands like dirty in the clay, and the feel of like working with clay on the wheel, and the creativity that comes when you're carving and glazing. But you also find that to really like get into it, you need at least like 3 hours at a time. And so I found that if I was going weekly, 3 to 4 hours a week, that's, half of a work day, especially with like kids at home and stuff, like it's a big sacrifice. But I was telling myself like, you shouldn't be doing this. You don't have time for this. Or even like at home, if I get the motivation. I love painting our house, like the different rooms.
I have lots of rooms you could come here and paint.
My gosh, I love transforming a room with like, you know, even if it's just a subtle shift, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
But I was telling myself like, this is very like a frivolous use of your time, or I painted our kitchen cabinets. It took me 3 months. But I stopped doing a lot of those things because I kept telling myself like, I don't have time for this. I need to be focusing on like growing my business or doing X, Y, and Z. And I really found that the result was just like an overall lack of creativity and inspiration in my life in general.
Yeah.
I think when I don't have a creative outlet, I don't have a way that I can like get my hands like messy.
Yeah.
It is directly related to my ability, like even writing and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, this is interesting. I think that I'll post a picture of it since we can't show this, but I've been doing these like Zen doodles.
Ooh.
And they're just like, it's just a notebook full of like my like doodles.
You did
and
those
they're
all freehand?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're
you definitely have to
flowers.
share those.
Yeah, I'll take a picture. They're just, I mean, and I'm not a doodler. Like I don't have any ability to like make stuff, but you just start going and your hand just like takes over, and it's pretty, but also it's mindless. And I have found that the more I make space through, like for me, creativity becomes really meditative. Because when you can get in the zone, usually it has to be something that you're familiar with. Like knitting and crocheting is probably a good example.
That's why I only knit things that are square, because I don't want to have to think about it.
Yes, right. But that's like half of the benefit of it is like not following instructions.
Right.
So you have to learn it at first, but then you have to decide, like, do you want the challenge of making a mitten?
Yeah.
Or do you just want that meditative, like, component?
Yes.
Where you just do what you know?
Yeah. And you can have both, and there's time for both. You can make time for both.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was painting our kitchen cabinets, I think that's probably the single biggest shifts and aha moments as I was, like, transitioning my career.
Yeah.
Because I could either like paint and listen to music, paint and do nothing, paint and listen to a podcast, but it created so much space inside. So I think creativity, amazing, but I think you can also get that same benefit through meditation, whether it's a moving meditation or, you know, like a sitting, like Zen type meditation, through like a mindfulness walk, like walk your dog, but don't listen to a podcast or music, like listen to the birds and observe the smells.
I definitely admire you and the space that you've made in the past, and it sounds like the space you're going to make in the future for these creative outlets. Last summer, I think it was, I took a creative writing class at our library, and it was so far out of my comfort zone, but it was therapeutic, and I met people that I would not have met otherwise, and it encouraged me to continue writing and using that as a creative outlet. The other thing I'll just say is, as you were talking about making space for creativity, you know, mostly as an entrepreneur, I kept thinking about golfing and how corporate people, men, women, will spend hours on the golf course, and that is acceptable. And for me, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, why is that acceptable? But I feel guilt, I'll just say it, when I invest time in these creative outlets that are going to better my business. And why do we golf? Well, because we like it, but also because it's going to better our business. So I'm going to use that.
It's normalizing the fact that creativity, making space in your mind is just as important as the networking opportunities. And, you know, you just have to, balance both if they're both good for you and your business, but B, like, know what it is that's going to be best for you and your business. Like, I'll probably progress more in my business by making space through creativity than I would by spending the time networking with people on the golf course.
Well, and I think too, and this is a conversation for another day, I love that businesses are starting to get more creative, pun intended, with connection and networking. It used to be just golf and happy hour. Now it's coffees, it's painting workshops, it's succulent workshops, it's wreath making, it's, name your favorite creative outlet. So I will say I'm happy to see that happening more. But the last thing I want to say on this energetic stuckness is, you mentioned it early on that a lot of times this stems from not being aligned with your purpose. I would say, like, for me, it's happened when I find myself not fully aligned with my values. And, sometimes that can be hard because not everyone can just, like, flip over their corporate trajectory, right? Some of us, choose to stay in that area or need to stay in that area. And so what I would say is, know that you don't have to just blow it all up to get unstuck. Look for a creative side project. Maybe you start a podcast with your best friend, or maybe you go to a creative writing class and then bring that back in and use it in your work, or not, right? But you can make time for these little side hustles or side projects that may ultimately help you get unstuck.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of the times when I have felt like the most massively stuck, it's come down to not knowing what was next for me. Almost like, I like to say, like, the universe is like blocking my path because I'm not going in the best direction, or like there's just not a next step for me that makes sense on the trajectory that I'm on.
Yeah.
And so there's just nowhere to go. You have to do something different in order to solve it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, like, maybe it's not just that you can't blow up your entire career, but like, what would you do? And so doing something different and small but different, a side project, something else, is the seed of inspiration that you need to like create your new path.
Yeah. I mean, if you're thinking about becoming a coach, do you take a coaching course on the side? And whether or not you decide to jump in with both feet or not, it's going to benefit you, in your life, right? Or even, I would hear this a lot in the insurance world. It's, well, I want to be a leader, but in order for me to advance, someone has to leave, someone has to die. Like, there's just nowhere for me to go. Well, can you, find a nonprofit board seat or something like that, where you can flex those leadership skills that you're not getting in your day job somewhere else?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It all comes down to just like small habit shifts. I think a lot of times we get stuck in these routines that are unproductive, and we just get stuck in doing the same thing over and over again, and it becomes a habit. And so you do just have to think a little bit outside the box, thinking creatively, doing something creative, but just doing something just to give yourself an opportunity to like feel that like spark of excitement. Okay.
So does that lead us to our last bucket, external
stuckness?
Okay.
So external stuckness would be when you are feeling stuck because of situations or like, events that are outside of your control, or that you at least like perceive to be outside of your control. Okay. Yeah. So it could be like a financial situation, a work environment, responsibilities that feel like they are like suffocating. You want change, but there are barriers in your way that are preventing that change from happening. And so you're staying stagnant.
Okay. Yeah,
interesting. So like, it's like in at home, right? It could be like, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I have 3 kids at home, and so I can't follow my purpose or my passion because I have to raise my kids and I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
That could be, it's a story that you tell yourself. There's truth in it. There is validity, of course, but I think some of the same advice and, turning points that we just talked about could be applied here too. Like, doing something different. And I think a lot of times an external variable comes down to like a mindset shift.
Yeah.
So it might be, yes, I have these 3 kids at home and this is how I'm spending my time right now, But if I, structure my day in a certain way, I might be able to make a little bit of extra space to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And, it might be just something small to begin with, right? Maybe it's not taking like a side job or something like that, but maybe it's doing something like taking a class to build the skills to do something that aligns with your passion or your purpose.
Yeah.
Once you do have a little bit more time.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's finding connection too, because we've talked about like entrepreneurship can be really lonely. Motherhood can be really lonely too.
Yeah.
And we are wired for connection. And if you're not finding that connection, and I'm not just talking about like with your kids, because you need like adult connection, that finding that time, finding those people, we did a whole episode on finding your tribe. You're not alone. And so to find those people that you can talk about how you're feeling, whether it's feeling stuck or just feeling lonely, I mean, you don't have time not to do that.
Yeah, it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think sometimes just seeing that you're not alone in how you're feeling, it's like that validation. Sometimes we need that validation to be like, okay, like this feeling, this is okay.
Yeah.
And I think finding your tribe can really help with that perspective shift.
Yeah.
That, especially when it is a variable that is outside of your control.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does come down to our reaction to, whatever that variable is. That's like we're seeing as creating the stuckness.
Yeah. Well, and so I think too, when it comes to external stuckness, it's cliche to say, but you hear all the time, you can't control what happens to you all the time, but you can control how you respond. And that phrase, frankly, like annoyed me for a while. And then I was doing one of my moving meditations, and the yoga or meditation instructor said, same thing. And I was like, ugh, here we go again. But she said something just a little bit different. And I loved it because she said, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And it's okay. Like there's a pause between those two things. And it's okay if in that pause, you're just like really pissed off for a second and you want to react this way. Like kind of like we were talking about earlier, like invite that reaction in for a cup of tea, but she's not staying all day. Right. So I love that. And it made me think of, this quote from Gloria Steinem, who I love. And Gloria Steinem famously said, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
You could change this up and say like, how you respond to something will set you free, but like your reaction's gonna piss you off to start with. But I just love that reframing of that phrase. So when we're talking about external stuckness, like we can't control everything that happens to us. What we can control is the pause and what happens in the pause, and then how we respond to it.
Yeah, I think the pause is something that is, it's one of the most valuable lessons that we really can learn, because I think that when we do invite that version of us who first wants to react, like when we invite her in, that's a part of us. That's a very real part of us. That's like, it's there whether we want her to be or not.
Yeah.
And so acknowledging that small voice is going to make our reactions in the future like easier.
Yeah.
It's going to help us get through that pause with more grace.
Yeah.
My yoga studio I love, and it's like it's a hot power yoga. And so we do this like, these series of flows, and it's 100 degrees in there. And by the end you're sweating a lot. And there's a point where, your heart is beating quickly. And sometimes they even throw in a little dance party before just to like get your heart up extra. Yeah. And then, there's a point where they say, okay, meet me at the top of your mat, sitting, don't grab all the things. So you're basically asked to go inward and just sit in the discomfort. And so you sit down, and the things that are going through your head at first, you're like, okay, I'm catching my breath. and I really want water. And now I'm noticing the sweat like trickling down the back of my head or down my forehead and onto my nose. And you're not supposed to grab your towel or anything. You just sit in the discomfort, using what's already in you, your breath and your body, to like bring yourself back to that level of like homeostasis. And I will say that practice has been the single most impactful practice on me, like learning the pause in my life, because it is like, you know, you can start to just think about yourself in that moment, like, you know, if I'm like angry or I'm whatever the situation is, it's like that feeling that you can just like hone in on and come back to and be like, okay, I can gather myself. I don't need to respond right now. I just collect myself here. I think the pause is like for our own sanity, our relationships.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so can I sidebar? The first time I took a hot yoga class, I didn't know it was a hot yoga class. Oh. And so when I was invited into the pause and felt the sweat trickling down my back, I thought, what is wrong with me? I should not be sweating this much.
In a yoga class, right?
And then I walked out and it was considerably cooler in the lobby, and I was like, oh, that was a hot yoga class.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So was that me that invited you without telling you? I hope not.
No, I think I just showed up I did it to myself on my own volition.
All right. Yeah. I was going to apologize, but then maybe not really, because you still learned it. You still learned.
Yeah. Okay. But well, I could probably embrace the pause a little better now, knowing it was a hot yoga class.
Yeah, but that pause, I mean, really, like, the pause is everything.
Yeah.
And then I think that the other thing outside of, like, you know, an internal, like, shift in perspective and practicing that pause, I think that the other thing that we can do is invite different perspectives in.
Yeah. I make my living now on helping women advance in their careers and get aligned with their values and their purpose. And so I'm a big believer that diversity leads to more innovative problem solving, more progressive solutions in business. And I absolutely agree that sometimes when we're feeling stuck, inviting different perspectives in and making space to hear all of those perspectives, to really hear them, can help us get unstuck.
Yeah, I'm always up for like challenging my own perspective. I think that we learn and grow that way. I don't think that, especially in like a corporate environment, that's all like, I don't think that that's always like bred and encouraged, like the validity that comes from like opening your mind a little bit, knowing that like your way is one way of thinking, but not the way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, we have to be careful, going back to earlier in the episode, that we don't get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Different things though, where I think like, inviting different perspectives so you can look at your situation through a different lens might help you get to the other side a little bit better.
And let's face it, we are recording this at a time where diversity in business and government is being questioned.
Yeah.
And if we're inviting diverse perspectives in, however we come to those diverse perspectives, and hearing them, acknowledging them, taking what's going to work and leaving what's not, I really believe, and there are studies that will back up that belief, that it will lead to more innovation and forward motion.
Diversity at its core, however it's showing up, is going to invite different perspectives. And so, no matter what, no matter like the greater difference you have in how people look, how they were raised, how they're currently living, what life experiences have brought them to the table. It's easy for us to live in these echo chambers of like the people that you immediately surround yourself with, especially when you're not like in a corporate environment. In the entrepreneurial world, it's easy especially to like surround myself with people that look and sound just like me. And I think it's really important for all of us to constantly test our perspectives, challenge our own beliefs by just putting ourselves in situations that are different than what we're used to, so that we can just like evolve and grow and
Yeah.
and innovate and get unstuck.
Yeah, something else that went on my vision board were the words be open.
Be open. Yeah, I love that.
And that just to like bring this full circle, that goes back to the energy stuckness too, right? Just being open to, and even, I'm just going to tie this all together with a bow, Jess. Even goes back to the emotional piece, right? Like, be open to all of the emotions, right? Yeah. To feel the highs, we have to feel the lows, and that's okay. So be open.
Be open to a new path presenting itself, where, maybe you have to give up a little bit of control over a vision or an idea, and just, be open to things not being what you expected. Openness. Well,
isn't it just the opposite of stuckness?
Yes. Let the ideas and the energy flow. So I think with that, I'm feeling pretty prepared, pretty prepared now to get through my stuckness. Yeah.
And I hope that we motivated our listeners and I hope you're not scratching your head and thinking, well, geez, Jess and Julia, I never thought of all the ways I could be stuck.
Well, hopefully we gave you lots of ways to become unstuck too.
Because the first step is awareness, right?
Awareness, self-awareness especially.
Yes.
Quieting your mind.
Yeah.
Making space for play and creativity and
being open.
Yeah, being open. So,
all right, so in true Take It Off fashion, I'll give you two options. What are you excited about, or what are you open to in the coming days?
Good question. So I guess by the time this publishes, this will be a few days in the past, but astrologically right now, we just had a full moon in Leo. Okay. And so in the spirit of our conversation, Leo is all about creativity and play and showing up as like the author of your own story, the main character in your life. And so I think that this week I'm just going to be really open to letting that creative flow come through again. I think I want to figure out, in addition to my doodles, how I can get creatively inspired this week.
Ooh,
what about you?
I love that. I'm just going to be frank. I am excited that we are more than halfway through the 28 days of the last month of winter, and spring is coming.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Who's counting though? But
I am counting.
Me too. New Cabby line of clothing. We can all ditch the sweaters.
Yes. And fresh, bright colors. I'm here for spring and everything that comes with it.
Love it. All right. Well, until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.